It's mailbag time here on Chicago Bears Now. I am Harrison Graham, ready to answer all of your questions as we continue to roll along during Bears training camp. Let's start with Larry Lapper with the $5 Super. Has there been any subscribers that have been more accurate than me regarding Bears predictions? I mean, Larry, I feel like the only thing you've consistently said is that Justin Fields isn't the guy, and I don't think that a bad training camp finish to a practice really proves anything. I just said that you got to be more consistent and improve, but one bad practice on a Tuesday I don't think dictates the entire season. But I appreciate it, and you're entitled to your opinion, as am I. Let's see what happens when games start to happen. Tyler with the super chat, with all of these receivers getting overpaid, if Mooney has another big year, how much money will Mooney demand in the future on a contract extension? A lot. Thank you, producer Jack. I tweeted this out the other day. He's going to get over $20 million a year if he has another 1,000-plus yard season. That's just where the market is right now. I kind of view Darnell Mooney as a Brandon Cooks type, maybe with a little more potential, and I think Cooks got right around $20 million per year on an extension with Houston. So I think 20 to 22, 23 million per year on a 2-3 year extension. It kind of seems like 3-year deals are where most deals are going, so these guys can hit the market again at a good age. So 3 years and, I don't know, 66 million, 22 a year. I could see something like that for Mooney. And hey, if he makes that, that means he's had another good year. So I think it's a win-win for the Bears. If he doesn't perform that well this year, he's got one more year on his contract. We revisit things next offseason. But over 20 million per year, Tyler, especially if he has another big season. Harrison Graham's beard, seeing all the good things about all the different wide receivers, St. Brown, Jones, and Harry. I really couldn't guess the lineup after the obvious ones. Yeah, I think that is a good sign. I think there has been some signs that these receivers could be a little bit better than we thought on paper. And again, you only need a couple to emerge, really. You got Darnell Mooney. I think Velus Jones Jr. is going to be an impact player, at least on some level from day one. I still like Byron Pringle. I think he's more of a 3 than a 2, but, it could be kind of positionless after Darnell Mooney where different guys contribute. St. Brown had a nice practice at the end of last week. N'Keal Harry had a good day on Tuesday. So, yeah, I mean, these guys have had their moments, but I think as a whole, the offense just a little more sharpness, a little more consistency. There's been some drops. There's been some missed throws by Fields. But we've definitely seen the big-time flashes and potential. Just got to tighten it up a little bit. Bruce Williams with the question, if the Bears don't trust Larry Borom to start, could Riley Reiff play right tackle and Chicago go sign Eric Fisher? That's an interesting idea because on Tuesday's practice, depending on when you're watching this, Bruce, Braxton Jones got all the reps at left tackle. Riley Reiff and Larry Borom kind of rotated at right tackle. Now, I am convinced Riley Reiff will start. It's just a matter of if it's on the right or left side. But I would not rule out signing another offensive lineman. If the Bears aren't comfortable with Braxton Jones or Larry Borom, then I think they could go out and sign another vet. Eric Fisher is still out there. Dwayne Brown is still out there. There's a couple of options. Hell, Jason Peters, if you want to bring him back, you could plant Reiff on the right side, bring in one of these guys to play left. It is an option. Now, I think the Bears would rather have one of these young guys emerge and start, but we'll have to wait and see. I would not rule it out. The Bears still have money to play with. Should the Bears sign Eric Fisher? What do you think? Type S for sign, type P for pass. Let us know down in the comments section. My burner again, seeing all the good things. Oh, we already answered this one, producer Jack, about the wide receivers. Appreciate the question, though. And yeah, I think they're going to continue to compete there. Nonchalant 54, what's with the national media disrespect? Feeling kind of personal these days. Look, the reality is that the narrative on paper is that this new Bears regime hasn't invested in year one. There's some truth to that. I don't think it's completely true, though. And I think the national narrative is that the Bears aren't necessarily tanking, but this is a big-time rebuild year. And I think it is somewhat of a rebuilding year. But it could be a transition type of year where, yes, you're rebuilding and you're more building towards something, but you could still compete while doing that. I continue to say the Eagles last year are a good example. I think they started 2-5. They rallied to go 9-8 and make the playoffs once they started to kind of get their feet wet in the middle of that season. I could see the Bears being a similar type of team where they start slow potentially, but they start to play better mid-year. Justin Fields gets more comfortable and by the end of the year, they're a dangerous team. I could see that being a possibility, but it's up to the Bears to change the national narrative. That's just the reality of the situation. LOD King, what rank do you think the Bears will be in the NFC North at the end of the year? If I had to say right now, I'd say probably third. Green Bay and Minnesota on paper are ahead of Chicago right now, I would say, but I wouldn't rule out being higher on that list. Both those teams do have question marks. New coaching staff in Minnesota. Packers offense has some questions, even though Rodgers is special. We don't know what things are going to look like at wide receiver. So let's see. I think this team's still better than Detroit. We'll see about the other two teams, though. Philip Palmisano, Harrison, do you see any early potential cut candidates from other teams that could bolster the Bears roster? I think one guy to monitor is Jalen Reagor with the Eagles. I could see him getting cut from Philly maybe, and if he does, I could see the Bears picking him up. Ian Cunningham came over from the Eagles front office, so he should know Reagor. That could be a potential connection there if you want to add another young, talented, yet disappointing up to this point weapon. I could see them poaching a linebacker. I couldn't name one off the top of my head, but to give you another player at that position, obviously I think Roquan will be back and play week 1, but after him and Nicholas Morrow, it's a little shaky. I could see a linebacker being a guy to target as well. Do you guys want some live post-game shows after our watch parties? And if you don't know what our watch parties are, we go live every single week during the regular season and in the preseason, by the way. That's the plan, for live watch parties where I provide play-by-play. We have a scoreboard, and, we're drinking beers and breaking down the game in real time. Do you want a live post-game show where you get to interact in the post-game show? If you do, type Y for yes. If you're like, I don't care about post-game shows. I don't care about my voice being heard. Type in for no, but I think you guys do. And if you do, follow us on Callin because there's a loose plan in place to do some live post-game shows on the Callin app. We've been with these guys since the NFL draft. Go live once a week on Tuesdays after our YouTube and Rumble streams to just chop it up with you guys. You guys hop in the caller queue. It's kind of like Twitter Spaces, but it's got more features. Audio social podcasting app. It's live. There's a live chat. And I want to hear you guys sound off after games. So imagine a game ends, it's a great win for the Bears or a tough loss, and I go live on Callin, I give my post-game reaction, and then I open the phones to you guys, and you guys get to sound off. Sound good to me? Sound good? I hope it sounds good to you. Chatsports.com/BearsCallin to subscribe on the Callin app. Download the app on iOS and Android. You can actually only call in if you have it on your mobile device. You can listen to the show on your computer, but you can't call in. So download the app and then find us by searching Bears Now or by searching that link in your browser. Matt Nagy, what's going on, Coach? Is Poles being too cheap with Roquan's new deal? I think he's negotiating. I do think Ryan Poles is careful with his money and how he operates a salary cap. I also think he's working under a situation where he had to maneuver a lot of contracts this year. He had to take on almost $60 million in dead cap, a lot of which was thanks to Ryan Pace. So I don't know about cheap, but careful, being a smart negotiator, trying to get the best deal possible. Yeah, I think there's probably some truth to that. Levi D, who has a better season, Travis Gibson or Aiden Bustinson? Talking about Aiden Hutchinson. I'll actually go Gibson, third-year player. Now, pure overall raw talent, Hutchinson was a number 2 overall pick. I mean, Travis Gibson was 5th rounder. But Gibson had 7 sacks last year. I think if Detroit got 7 sacks as a rookie out of Hutchinson, they'd be pretty happy. I've told you guys for a couple months. I think one of my hot takes for the Bears this year is Travis Gibson will have 10-plus sacks. I think he's that good, that talented, and that capable. And I think this pass rush with him, Robert Quinn, and Al-Quadin Muhammad could be pretty damn nasty. So, yeah, I'll lean Gibson this year. Long-term, Hutchinson's got more ability, but he's got a lot to prove in his young career. Frank Brown, do you think Kendall Vilder is only getting first-team reps because of Thomas Graham's injury? I don't think that's the only reason. Vilder actually got some nickel reps on Tuesday, so, they're kind of moving him around just like they are Kyler Gordon, playing them both outside nickel. Look, I know everyone's down on Vilder, but the value he brings is experience. He's started over a season's worth of games. That's valuable. Even if he ends up being your CB4 or 5 as a backup and can be a special teams contributor, at least you have a guy that has played in real games. That is not always the case for backups in a cornerback room. So we'll see. My anticipation still is that Tavon Young, Kyler Gordon, and Jalen Johnson, probably the best chance to be your 3 starting corners. But I could see a scenario where Gordon starts in the nickel and Vilder's your CB2 on the outside, maybe even with a little bit of a rotation. Look, Eberflus isn't handing out jobs. They're going to let these guys compete throughout camp. Subscribe to Chicago Bears now because we'll have you hit with those updates during training camp. Hit that notification bell as well because we've gotten a lot of new subscribers recently, but only like 16, 17% of you guys have turned that notification bell on. So after you subscribe, there's a little bell icon. Click it, and then select the all word. That way you always get notified when we publish a video or when we go live. YouTube.com/BearsNow. That's the link to share with all your friends. But if you're watching right now, which you are, just hit that red button and turn on that notification bell for more Bears coverage. Sam Ortiz, Calvin Ridley, realistic weapon target next season. It's possible. I think if you're someone who wants Calvin Ridley, you should be rooting for these other weapons for the Falcons to do really well this year. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, you want these guys to pop off because if they struggle, then the Falcons are going to be like, well, we at least know Ridley's good, so we're going to get him back. I'd love to trade for Calvin Ridley, and in reality, you probably wouldn't have to trade a first-round pick for him either after missing a year and a half. So, yeah, I'm very much open to a Calvin Ridley trade. Jared Myers, what kind of trade value does Teven Jenkins have? I've put the value as a 4th. Maybe I'm being optimistic. It might be more like a 5th. Guys, here's the reality. He had a back surgery last year, only played in 5 or 6 games, and now he's, at least publicly, he looks like a player who's disgruntled. That's how it looks. Whether that's true or not, that's the reality. That's the narrative in the NFL, and that hurts his trade value. I think if you got a 4th for him, especially if it was for a team that you don't think is going to be great, and it's an earlier 4th-round pick, top 100, top 115 pick, I just take it and run, man. And as crappy as that sounds, I think you'd have to consider it. So I'll say a 4th or a 5th, Jared. I don't think you're getting a 2nd or a 3rd. Be sure to subscribe on the Callin app. Like I said, we want to do some live post-game shows during the preseason and on into the regular season. Chatsports.com/Bears Callin. We will have you updated over there with weekly shows and your chance to interact with me when it comes to talking about the Chicago Bears.